What's up, YouTube? It's the Action Figure Grader coming back to you with another video. I hope that you are doing well. I thought I would show you guys my Lili Ledy collection. And I think you guys have pretty much seen all of these, with the exception, I think, of these two up front. And so I won't bore you with going through all the rest of them, but just really quickly, I'll just describe them to you. Let's see. We have... all right, so the one on the left here is a U-85 made in Mexico. So that was made, Darth Vader. So that was made in Mexico. It doesn't have the Lili Ledy label on it because, as I've mentioned in a previous video, the accessories are Kenner. Probably the saber is Kenner. And then the true Lili Ledy is here. That's all 100% Lili Ledy figure and accessories. That one scored an 85. Then I have an 85 9 Yum. And I apologize, I have to get up and look at the scores because I can't remember. We got a Reese, that's also an 85. We have the non-sonic welded headed Overstock Emperor's Royal Guard, that's an 85 plus, so it's got the unpainted visor. We got my 80 plus Boba Fett Lili Ledy, and then we have another non-sonic welded head with the painted visor, that's an 85. Let's see, what else we got? We got an 85... Gamorrean Guard, we got the 85 non-sonic welded prune face, we got the 85 non-sonic welded C-3PO, 85 non-sonic welded Chewbacca, we got the 60 grade AT-ST driver. Also, I wanted to point out one thing on the AT-ST driver. I mentioned when I showed this in the unboxing video that the back piece had yellowing. That is actually not the case. I took a closer look at it, and as you can see, it looks like actually it's paint of some sort. So I don't know if it was just a factory error, which is why the figure was never, fully produced. But that's actually paint. That's not yellowing. And you can really see that on the crotch area down here. You can see where there's a point. So it was just really bad. It was an error in terms of the paint. So they put the wrong color on it, apparently. That is not yellowing. So that's why it's so yellow. I thought it was yellowed, but I couldn't figure out why the front was not also yellowed, since this figure is all one figure. But apparently, whoever was working the factory that day just had the wrong color, and so they tossed this figure to the side. So it was Overstock error figure, but that's why it received the 60 grade. So that is interesting. I didn't realize that at first. So that got the 60, and then I think these two I have not shown you. I know I haven't shown you this this one. This is a Logray. This one came back with an 85 plus. It's the light stripes Lili Ledy version. There's two different versions for the Logray. There's the light stripes, which is what you see here, and then there's also one with much darker, browner stripes than this one. I have that one in grading at Collector Archive Services. It should probably get an 80 or an 85. So that one will probably, let's see, I sent that in March. So I'll see you in September or October, because CAS takes that long. But this is a really nice figure, though. And, as you can see, it's got, the very light beige color always stays the same. It's just the darker stripes that change. And you'll see it when I compare this in September or October to the dark stripes version. It's pretty dramatic how much darker the stripes are than on this one. So that's why this one got the light stripes, and it's an 85 plus. Really nice figure. I got that from a seller in the UK. And then finally, I've got, I don't think I've shown this one to you. If I have, I apologize. I've got a pretty big collection of Lando skiff guards, and this one is my Lili Ledy version. He's got the really dark skin. I got the No COO. I've got the Hong Kong, and then I've got a carded Kenner version. I haven't shown you guys any of those yet, so at some point I'll get around to that. But this is the Lili Ledy, and this one scored an 85. Now there are also two variants to this Lili Ledy, and I don't have the other one. The other one has a goldish gauntlets, a goldish chest plate, and goldish shoulder pads. So this is the silver version, but there are two different color variants for the Lili Ledy Lando skiff. So each of these have two variants. And so that's just for informational purposes only. So anyway, the real reason I wanted to show you or start to do this video is that I've got a couple of I call them Frankenstein figures, but these are Lili Ledy Overstock figures, and I call them Frankensteins because they are mismatched figures. They have the wrong heads on the bodies, and as you can see, they are both variants of 9-Yum. We got a 9-Yum head on a Klaatu body, and then we have an Admiral Akbar on a 9-Yum body. And they're just really bizarre figures, but these are Overstock figures. It's part of the Lili Ledy legacy, if you ask me, and I did not have any of these. I found these on eBay. I had been watching them for a long time, and the seller is kind of mysterious. He randomly puts stuff on sale on his website, and he's got a lot of cool stuff, both Star Wars and non-Star Wars. And these two items he put 30% off on one day, and I finally pulled the trigger on them. They usually sell anywhere from $75 to $125, depending on condition and depending on what figure combinations the actual figures are. So, for example, I think I paid, I can't remember exactly, I want to say like $90-something a piece for these, but I also do have another one coming that's going to have the Lando skiff guard like I just showed you, but it has a Luke Bespin head. That one I paid a little bit more for because obviously it's got Luke Skywalker on it. But the Lando combined with the Luke Bespin head is another very common combination for these Frankenstein hybrid. They're really called Overstock hybrid Lili Ledys, but I call them Frankensteins just for short. But technically they're a hybrid figure where they just have mismatched heads. A couple of things of note on these Frankenstein figures. If you're planning on buying them just to have them sitting on a shelf with your other Lili Ledys, cool, go for it. If you're planning on grading them, it's a little bit different story. And Collector Archive Services does grade these. They have a number of these on their website, so they do grade them. You do not need the accessories to have these graded. And honestly, I wouldn't know which accessories to put. Do I put Admiral Akbar's staff, or do I put the 9-Yum kind of bulky blaster? Or with this one, do I put 9-Yum's blaster, or do I use the Skiff Guard Vibro Axe? I don't know the answer. So I'm not going to send them with accessories, but CAS does grade these if they are legitimate hybrids. But that all being said, there's a couple of things that you need to look out for. Some unscrupulous sellers do boil these figures, these really rough Lili Ledy figures. Let's say that they're normal, just everyday, factory normal figures. They'll boil them in hot water to loosen up the heads, and then they'll pop the heads off and put on a different head and say that they're Overstock. Well, there's not an easy way to tell that that's been done other than, having a uniform paint damage from the boiling process, which it may or may not do. Sometimes you can still boil and pop the heads without any damage to the paint. It just depends. But there are telltale signs if you see stress marks around the neck area. Let me see if I can get it closer up here. Oftentimes you'll see stress marks around the neck or around the sonic welded joint. These do not have that. So it's a little bit of a roll of the dice that these are legitimate hybrid figures, but the person I bought them from sells Overstock almost exclusively. Along with some other Lili Ledy type things. But, all of his items are very legitimate, non-sonic welded Overstock, all really expensive figures. And he had these two along with a couple of other Overstocks that are unpainted. So my gut says that these are legitimate hybrid Overstock Lili Ledys and not just boil and pop figures that people are trying to rip people off on. You just need to be careful, though. The other thing I will mention is that some of these, even in the Lili Ledy factory, some of these that were non-sonic welded were assembled like this in the factory, and they were glued together. And this may be an example of that. I'm not sure. We're going to let Collector Archive Services sort it out. But, this is where the sonic weld typically is. And sometimes the factories glued them together instead of using the sonic weld process, because Lili Ledy was in the process of going out of business when these Frankenstein figures were kind of being assembled. They just had so many extra parts and big boxes of just leftover heads and arms and legs and everything that they were just assembling them really quickly before the business shut down. Sometimes they didn't bother assembling them at all, and they just threw boxes out. So that's where a lot of this overstock comes from, like the ones that you see behind the Frankenstein figures. But my point being is that, if they have glue, I'm not sure how Collector Archive Services treats those. I guess they can use a black light to tell whether the glue is recent or whether it's vintage glue, in which case they'd still grade it. I don't know the answer. I haven't bothered to ask Collector Archive Services about it, but I am going to send these in, even though they are in rough condition, just to get them graded and authenticated. I don't expect very high scores on them, obviously, given the hand damage, as you can see, and things like that, the foot damage. But it's part of the Lili Ledy legacy, part of the story of Lili Ledy and what happened when they shut down. And I find them fascinating because they're just so weird looking, and because at some point I'd like to have a really nice big collection of all these different kind of Lili Ledy figures, both normal retail figures that are high grade, but also these kind of Frankenstein figures, these Overstock figures that are unpainted, the non-sonic welds. There's just so many different things that you can collect when it comes to Lili Ledy, and they're popular, So right now they're very popular. Lili Ledys and PBPs and Mechanos, they're just going through the roof on price. So I'm very selective now when I buy anything. I don't want to overpay for stuff because there's just a lot of people buying them right now. And there was an Overstock Gamorrean Guard unpainted, non-sonic welded, along with a Squid Head non-sonic welded unpainted, and they sold for like $800 this week on eBay. And I'm not willing to pay that kind of money for them unless they're very, very unique figures like that 3PO that I showed you. So anyway, I just thought I'd show those to you because they're very cool. Like I said, I've got one more coming, and I'm going to send them off next month to CAS, along with a few other Lili Ledy figures that I have not shown you yet, and some bootlegs. So, but anyway, it's just another kind of small mini focus of Lili Ledy that some people like to get into, and I just think they're really cool. So somehow I still made it 12 and a half minutes, even though I said it was going to be 5 minutes. Sorry. Talk to you later. Bye.